All right, let's talk about the Giants coaching staff, why don't we? You know what? I figured this could be a good idea for a film study. Talk about the X's and O's and what they've done to allow this team to be so successful in this past year that, they've been under a new regime. Like, let's start off with this play. I want to talk about it all. I want to talk about offense. I want to talk about defense. Let's start off with some offense. And let's start off with that playoff game against Minnesota, where I really thought they kind of flexed their muscles a little bit and kind of the X's and O's they were able to pull off and just putting their players in positions to succeed. Giants fans, I felt like a lot of times through last season, maybe got mad at me at times for saying that it's not an overly talented team. But you know what? You don't have to necessarily be the most talented team if you have a good coaching staff that knows how to use the pieces you do have to their advantage. And that's what I thought the Giants did very well last year. The way this play is designed to work is it's zone coverage for the Minnesota Vikings. And what the Giants are going to do is they're first going to have a receiver who's on closer towards the bottom of the screen, the only wide receiver who's on that side of the field. He's going to run a route that's kind of deeper over the middle to try and get the corner and safety who are covering deep on that side of the field further towards the middle. You then have another receiver on the other side of the field go over, and he's going to be the one that Jones is actually going to look towards, and these plays can really be effective. Watch how when this play begins, you see how right here, this really works out because Harrison Smith, the safety for Minnesota, ran directly into someone, so this now means that there's going to be a wide open receiver for Daniel Jones. As you see, Jones does make this throw, and they're able to pick up a big chunk play right there. That's a lot of what they did, was just said, okay, what team are we going up against? What kind of scheme do they like to run? And then how can we attack that scheme? It's actually, obviously we all know about Brian Daboll being a former Buffalo Bills coach, but remember, he was a coach under the Patriots as well. And I do think that he kind of brings a little bit of that to the Giants in a sense, in a better way than we've seen some other coaches try to bring that Bill Belichick style to their teams, where he's mostly focused on the making sure that you game plan around your opponent's weaknesses instead of just around your own strengths, because sometimes it's better to game plan around opponent's weaknesses. Like this plays another one from that same game, a very kind of a similar idea where you have 3 eligible receivers on the offense's left. They're all at the line. No one's appearing to be blocking right here, but none of them are going to stay on that side of the field. Watch how when this play begins, they all move further towards the middle, and in this zone coverage scheme, that obviously is going to pull Minnesota players closer towards the middle, which means that for Saquon Barkley, who's going to run underneath, you can now clear out some space for him, which is good for 2 reasons. One, you just have to get to the 35 for a first down right here, so you pretty much have got that first down guaranteed. But 2, not only are you getting someone the ball with some space, you're getting Saquon Barkley the ball with some space. You're getting the ball in your best playmaker's hands, which anytime you can do that, it's just automatically going to be a win, I think. Watch as Jones makes this throw, Barkley makes the grab, turns the corner, and is able to pick up a decent chunk play right there. So again, that's saying like, okay, listen, do we have the most talent? Maybe not necessarily, but what did the Giants have? Well, they had plenty of guys who could be solid role players, and you have Saquon Barkley who's really good. So let's have these receivers who can be good role players, just run role player routes and get the ball in our playmakers' hands. It's just smart football, and I thought that they did a really good job with that last year. Now, it wasn't perfect. Like, something like this is a good example of, like, there is kind of only so much you can do. I think, like, one issue with trying to do something like that is, okay, so the Eagles played a lot of cover 2 zone last year, cover 2 and cover 4. That's a lot of what they did. This is this is what they're doing here, zone coverage. So what do? Okay, well, let's just have a player kind of run 5 yards out, turn around. Hopefully he can get open underneath. We can get an easy catch here. The issue of game planning around your opponent's weaknesses, strictly, is the kind of, obvious issue that you would probably think, which is, well, don't your opponents kind of know that might be how you are going to try to attack them? Can't they kind of, game plan around that? And if it's a good defense, yes, they can, like we saw with the Eagles. Watch how when this play begins. Okay, in this situation, you see how this play could work on paper, and with less talented corners, on this play, this would be a good situation. But it's James Bradberry, the former Giant, who's reading this play very well. He knows how you can beat this coverage, and he's paying attention here. He sees where Jones is looking. And as you see, he's going to jump in front of that route and get the interception. At the end of the day, if you don't have receivers who can just go out and win on the outside and be able to win in traditional ways, these kind of things are going to happen. Again, it is worth mentioning, I think, the Giants did have a below average offense and defense last year in terms of points per drive. And I think it's because sometimes when they were in these situations, there's only so much you can do in this spot, which is why I think when it went up against a very complete team like Philadelphia, they really struggled. But when they were against teams that had some weaknesses, that's when they were able to take advantage of. And I think that as they continue to build more talent, perhaps they can, get better, obviously, as simple as that sounds. As for defense, I thought the defensive coaching was, again, still very good. Yes, I know that it wasn't, again, depends on what stat you use. I like to use points per drive. That's my favorite stat to evaluate offense and defense. They were, around 20th in points per drive defensively last year. So, again, not spectacular, but not a disaster either. And I thought, again, had some really good moments. Maybe no better example was this game against the Washington football team when they held them to, just 12 points in a very important game that, ended up deciding who made the playoffs last year between those two teams. And they would just dial stuff up well. And I'm saying they because, yes, I could just give all the credit to the defensive coordinator or Brian Daboll or the offensive coordinator, but there's a lot of people that go into this. So it's the staff in general. But, I thought they did a good job of just dialing stuff up at the right time. This is going to be a cover one blitz right here. Watch how when this play begins, you see that Heineke is going to, look down the field, looks towards his left, but doesn't love that route. It's, a good defense right here to just, be able to cover this situation. Now, I'm not saying there aren't guys who's open. In fact, the Giants are actually going to leave someone completely wide open on the other side of the field in just a second. But it doesn't matter because Heineke didn't have time. He tried to scramble out and ends up getting sacked instead because, again, the blitz happened. There was extra pressure. So they can dial stuff up well, and that's definitely something that's good to see. There was a lot of, I thought good play calls, although I did have a knock on this defense last year. Something like this, and by a knock on the defense, I mean, really what I mean is a knock on the coaching, because obviously that's what we're talking about. There were some plays that I thought they could have done a better job communicating when they were in zone coverage. So a play like this is a great example. It's a cover 3 zone, and so the concept on this that you see on the screen for Minnesota, you have the two receivers who are lined up to the right. One is going to run a kind of a deeper route that goes over the middle. The other kind of runs a route that's going to go towards the sideline, but then go further deep. Basically, the idea is the first route takes away the deep corner, and then someone else goes to where the corner was and hopefully gets open. Watch right here. What happens is that the Giant player who's covering the more underneath route on this play, that's his route at this point. That's where he has to be covering. And I think teams that play a lot of the same coverage are really good at doing this. The Giants don't necessarily play a ton of the same coverage consistently. They mix things up a good chunk, and because of that, you're gonna get some miscommunications, and there were some miscommunications last year. Look, as you see, the linebacker there does not pick him up whatsoever. There's a pretty big window to make that throw. Again, linebackers in coverage aren't going to necessarily be as good as corners, but you want them to at least be in the right position. Listen, that play concept is designed to give you a mismatch if you're, Minnesota. However, you would have still liked to see, just at least make an effort and get in better position, which they weren't able to do there. So again, was not perfect, but as a whole was very good, and it's a coaching staff that made the most of, an okay opportunity, but not a great opportunity to still get them into the playoffs and to win a playoff game. Again, they were one of the top final 8 teams last year, so that's definitely impressive. And I think the exciting thing for Giants fans is if you can continue to add more talent, could they continue to grow and become a Super Bowl contender? We'll have to see. But for now, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.